Hello, 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 beautiful luminous light beings. This is Katherine Larange, your host of the My Dead Dragon podcast. And this is episode 22. So you are hearing from me today. And as a reminder, every 11 episodes, I pop on and share insights and tips and ideas and strategies and kind of my best recommendations or thoughts based on the previous 10 podcasts and the guests that I've been honored to connect with. So what's kind of coming up for me is that we are moving into 2022. This is episode 22, moving into 2022. And so kind of feeling like there's some value for you in really talking about how to set yourself up for a really powerful an amazing new year. So many people wait until the new year and maybe they create resolutions and ideas, and then they really don't do anything with it. And then a year comes around and they're kind of in the same place, or maybe even a little bit worse than they were at the start of the year. So I want to give you some strategies about how to really calibrate yourself to set yourself up for a powerful year. So with all the work that I do with the people that I'm blessed to serve and support, it starts with a vision. And the vision is really a future picture of the life that you would love to create. And to do this, we look at 4 quadrants. So when I'm taking my clients through this, we actually imagine that it's 3 years in the future and it's all worked out. It's all worked out. I even show them that I have a magic wand. And so as you're listening to this, imagine it's 3 years in the future. It's all worked out and you are living a life that you love. You are showing up consistently as the woman, as the man in your vision. You are being her now. You are being him now. So what would you really love for that life if you were guaranteed to succeed? And we look at 4 quadrants. So we look at your health and well-being. That's your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health and well-being. We look at your love and relationships, and this could be relationships that you currently have, or it could be relationships that you're really yearning to experience or looking to improve in some way. Next, we look at your career or vocation. And your vocation is not necessarily what you do for money. Sometimes it's what you do for money. But another way of thinking about it is, if money was no object, how would you love to bring your gifts and talents to the world? What is your heart and soul calling for you to do, to express in this world? What would bring you the utmost joy and satisfaction? So your current vocation. And then we look at your time and money freedom. So what would that look like? What would you be doing with your days? Would you be traveling? If you're working, how much time would you work? What would your bank account look like? What would be your, kind of monthly revenue, your weekly revenue? If you have a business, what's the revenue goal that you have? What would you really, really love? And so to support you in really relaxing into this possibility thinking, I've actually got a free meditation download that I put on my website for you, katalystcoaching.com, Katalyst with a K, coaching with a C. And you can actually sign up and download the free meditation there. And it's about a 15-minute meditation visualization to really help you lean into and imagine what it is that you would love. So that's the first step, is identifying what would I love. It's 3 years from now. The reason we do 3 years from now is that it actually helps to relax our paradigms or subconscious limiting beliefs, because our conscious mind has some ideas about what we've done in the past, what we've accomplished, or if we haven't accomplished it, it has some thoughts about that. So if we say, oh, in 6 months, I'm going to, make $20 million and I've only ever made $10,000, your conscious mind is going to be like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. So when we pace it 3 years out, we future pace it, it actually relaxes our paradigms, which are those limiting beliefs. Those are our operating structures, our internal operating structures. And they don't quite know what's possible in 3 years. So they kind of relax and say, well, maybe that could happen. And the key there is that it allows us to tap into our mental faculty of imagination. So we all have mental faculties that we're gifted with. It's part of our birthright. It's how we, kind of came to this planet. And so many of us don't actually know how to use them in service of ourselves. And often we use our imagination more to terrorize us, right? Like, oh my gosh, what could go wrong? And there's an asteroid coming. And what about this? And what about that? And we use that imagination to really keep us afraid and fearful and worried and anxious and stressed. And when we can consciously use our imagination to create an image of what we would love, we're starting then to shift our focus. We're starting to shift our mind, our thinking in terms of what's possible. So it starts with the vision. Again, hop onto my website, get that free download meditation. It'll really help you to relax into starting to get some ideas of what you would love to create for yourself. Once we have the vision, it's not enough, right? A lot of people get hung up on manifestation, the idea of manifestation with this. They think like, oh, if I just have this picture and I really, 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 really want it, that's all. But it's not. We actually need to take action to serve the vision, because our action is how the universe can co-create with us. And so imagine now you're sitting on your couch, you've got this amazing vision of what you want to manifest for your life, what you'd love to create, but you're not actually doing anything about it. There's no way for the universe to support you in making that come to reality. So it starts with a vision, and then it's the decision. It's the decision. And what happens so often is that we create this beautiful image. We have an idea of what we would love for our life, or maybe we are very clear that what we are currently experiencing is absolutely not working, right? And we just kind of waffle. We waffle. We are in this limbo zone, hoping something's going to change, wishing something would change, maybe feeling miserable, but we haven't actually decided for a change. And so until we make that decision, nothing is going to change. And we don't need to know how it's going to happen, right? We don't wait until we know how it's all going to work out before we make that decision. It starts with making a decision. And what happens when we make that decision and we say, I'm doing this thing, I don't know how I'm doing it, I don't know how it's going to work out, I have no idea, right? We're placing an energetic stake in the ground, so to speak. And we're saying, this is my stake. I am doing this thing. And what happens is that the universe actually starts to rush to our aid. I have lost count of the number of clients who have decided, and sometimes they're afraid, but they've decided to invest in coaching. And they're like, I don't know how I'm going to, find the money for this. I don't know how I'm going to find the time for this. I don't know if this is really going to work for me. And as soon as they decide, they say, yes, I'm doing this. Yes, I'm doing this for myself. Like money just shows up in their lives. It's really cool to see. I'm never surprised because I know that this is how it happens, but it's always kind of like fun to see like, oh, like that's where it came from for this person. That's where it came from for this person. And so for you in your life right now, checking in with yourself, where am I waffling? Where am I waffling? Where have I not yet made a decision for what it is that I want? Right? And you're the only person to know that for you. And so whatever that is, my invitation to you is to make a decision for yourself. You are deciding for yourself. So is it that you're deciding to go back to school? Is it that you're deciding to, take a class? Is it that you're deciding to improve your relationship? Is it you're deciding to invest in coaching? Is it that you're deciding to start a business? You're deciding to leave a job? Like whatever it is, it starts with the decision. And then what happens is that in that moment of active decision, right? Okay, I'm doing it and I'm taking a step. So I've, signed up for a class. I've said yes to coaching. I've whatever it is that I'm saying yes to, the fear comes up, right? It comes up, and it can be really terrifying sometimes for people. And so I want you to know that that's actually part of the process, because what's happened is when you make that decision for yourself, for your life, you are stepping outside of the comfort zone of what you've known so far. And we all have, and you've heard me talk about this in the podcast and the various, conversations with my guests, we all have patterns about how we show up to our life. We all have internal operating structures that operate at the subconscious level. And their job is to just keep us in what's familiar. They're actually there to serve us. They have our highest intention in mind. Sometimes they're not super skillful, right? But they're still there doing their thing, and they're doing it the best way that they know how. And the way that they know how is to, when we start to step into something new, is to try to bring us back down to the familiar. And so they might try to delay us, like, oh, we'll do this later. Now is not a good time. Let's do the laundry first. So let's just check the emails. Oh, it's almost the new year. Let's wait till 2022. They might try to dissuade us. Who do you think you are? You don't have what it takes, right? This is your family history. It's just how it is. Or they might even, and the language that we use is DEFCON us. And that's where it feels like almost like a physiological response, right? So maybe you go to make a phone call and your hands get sweaty, or you've got like butterflies in your stomach. I know for myself, when I invested in my coaching certification, I felt like I was going to barf. Like, my operating system said lots of things about why it wasn't a good idea. And when I made the decision, I took the action, it came up that strong for me. So knowing that that's part of the process, right? You get the vision, and then you make a decision for it. You take some action, that the fear is going to probably show up at some point in time. So wanted to kind of share with you that process, to really invite you to tune into yourself right now and ask, what decision am I needing to make? What's the decision that I'm needing to make? Right? And the reason that we create the vision in all 4 quadrants is that we want you to have full spectrum success and fulfillment in your life. Full spectrum. So, immense wealth without physical health is kind of lost. You could have amazing, business success, but if all of your relationships are crumbling, that's not full success and happiness. So we want those full spectrum vision. And then in my coaching programs, in some of my senior level coaching programs, we actually take it from 3 years to 1 year. And we really dial up. So when people are ready, of course, we really dial up how they're going to live into that for the next year. And, this is kind of the time of year where lots of people are thinking about their goals, maybe goals for 2022, might be thinking about, did I even set goals for 2021? Why is that important to me? Why should I even bother? I'm actually currently working on creating a program specifically to support people with accountability for their goals. So I'm getting lots of questions from people about that. So how do I set a goal? What if my goals change? Are they allowed to change over time? And so the goal setting, again, it starts with the vision. What would you love 3 years from now? And the reason that we do that is it starts to tap into the potential and the dreaming that's available for you. Then from there, we can actually break it down to annual, quarterly goals, right? And when you're setting goals for yourself, if you're thinking about that, 1 to 3 maximum, 1 to 3 maximum. And think about this. If you've got a concrete truck showing up at your house and they have a certain amount of concrete, right? They've got, 10 cubic yards or however they measure concrete, and you've got like 50 things to fill that are going to take more than that amount of concrete, you're not going to actually get any of them done. Our goals are the same. We have a finite amount of energy. And so if we have too many things that we're working on at any one time, we're going to be kind of like meh and ho hum on any of them. So that's why we focus on 1 to 3 goals at a time, because that allows us to really bring our full focus and a full moon energy to achieving those goals. So that's a question I get a lot. Another question that I'm hearing from people is, well, is it okay to change our goals? And the answer is, it depends. It depends. So if you are noticing that you would love that goal, you would love to achieve that goal, and there's a part of you that's telling you that you're not worth it, it's not possible, who do you think you are, right? You shouldn't dream so big. Then you want to really notice, is the desire or the curiosity, the question around changing the goal, is it based on a constrictive feeling? Or the other side of that is where we have changed, right? So we set a goal, we start to take some steps towards that goal, and by virtue of taking the action, we actually evolve and shift and change. So if, as we've taken those steps, that goal doesn't fit anymore, well, then yes, we want to change it. There absolutely, goals are meant to evolve and change over our lifetime. And I think it's Bob Proctor who says that goals are for growing, not forgetting. Goals are for growing, right? And this podcast is all about growth. And so when we set that goal that's requiring us to stretch, it's actually causing us to grow in our lives. And it's that growth, that increased capacity that we develop within ourselves. And don't get me wrong, the goal is great. It's great to achieve the goal. That feels really good. But it's the growth and who it is that we have become by virtue of striving for those goals. So I hope that that makes sense. So I'm going to invite you, as you're listening, to think about this, right? So what are some of the goals that you would love to set for yourself in your health quadrant, your health and well-being quadrant? So your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health and well-being. What goals would you love to set there, right? Your love and relationship quadrant. What goals would you love to set there? Your vocation or creative expression. What goals would you love to set there? And your time and money freedom. And again, we want to pick maximum 3 goals, because we want to be able to focus on the energy. And so if you're wondering, like, where do I start? Which quadrant do I start with? Notice the one where you feel the biggest desire for change. So what's the area that is really giving you the most stress, the most discomfort, the most longing? And that is probably the one that you really want to consider setting some goals in. So I hope that has been helpful. I hope that's been helpful. As I mentioned, I do have a special program that I'm rolling out to support people. It's a 12-month accountability process to help people in really having a structure of support to achieve those goals. And so if you would love information about that, stay tuned to my social media channels. And you can also sign up for my weekly newsletter. Again, that is on my website, katalystcoaching.com. And in the meantime, I so appreciate your support of the podcast. I love all the questions that you send me, the comments, hearing how it's impacted you, the stories of the guests and people that I'm in conversation with. And if you have questions that you would love me to answer, if you have topics that you would love me to cover, if you have guests that you would love to hear from, please reach out, let me know. And if you're enjoying the podcast, you can support it by liking it or subscribing, I guess, on your podcast channel, and then leaving a review. And I would so appreciate that if you could take a few minutes and do that. So thank you, as always. Have a wonderful rest of the week.